So good morning each and every one of you. I hope everyone is safe and sound and doing extremely well. This is Basavaraj. I'm your biology master teacher. So students, this is the part 2 of the chapter How Do Organisms Reproduce. In the previous class, we learned about what are the different types of reproduction methods. Then we also learned about asexual reproduction methods. In asexual reproduction methods, I taught you the different types also. For example, I taught you what is fission, what is fragmentation, what is budding, what is the meaning of regeneration, what is the meaning of vegetative propagation. In vegetative propagation, we also learned about what are the different types of vegetative propagation. We also learned about advantages and disadvantages. Yes, everything is covered out of your NCERT, within your NCERT. Or when I say out of your NCERT, I mean a small extra additional points which I always tell all of you. So with that being said, can we start today's class? How is the Josh? Can we start the part 2 today? Everyone, in second part, we will be learning the sexual reproduction. That is both in the case of plants as well as human reproduction. Now students, I'll be telling you a few points which are extremely important, which will definitely come in your exam. For example, in the case of female reproductive system, the diagram is very important. There is a question about placenta which is important. There is a question on menstrual cycle which is also important. So what about male reproductive structure? In the case of male reproductive structure, there are questions which will come like what are axillary ducts? What is the function of? Yes, what is the function of the axillary glands? Yes, what are axillary glands? All those questions will definitely come to you. Now, what about plant reproduction? In plant reproduction, you can get questions like what is the function of stigma, style and ovary? What is the female structure here? What is the male structure here in the case of plants? So every single detail we'll be learning in today's class. Ready? Yes, quickly show me some chat quickly show some energy in the chat, like hearts or fire or lighting, anything in the chat to show the energy which you have, all of you. And students, do not worry, I've been reading your comments because today, by the end of today, we will have 3 live classes on channel. 3 live classes. We have chemistry, we have biology, and we also have maths. Apart from 3 live classes, we also have an English class today, which will come as a recorded format. Yes, we'll get a chapter, that is a letter to the God. That will come as a recorded video today. So complete coverage will happen today. So with that being said, let's start today's class. So what about teach heredity? Next chapter is heredity. Okay, next chapter which I'll be teaching you is heredity chapter. Very easy chapter. Monohybrid cross, dihybrid cross, very easy. I'll make it very easy for all of you. Okay. Now, before we go any further, let me talk about sexual reproduction. So I told you in the last class, in asexual reproduction, there is involvement of a single parent. I told you, right? In the case of asexual reproduction, there is a single parent involved. Now what about sexual reproduction? How many parents can you see? In the case of sexual reproduction, there are involvement of, in total, 1 second students, the pen is not writing, stupid pen. Here, involvement of 2 parents here. Yes, there is involvement of 2 parents here. Now what about the fusion of gametes? Do you have fusion of gametes here? The answer is yes. In the case of sexual reproduction, there is fusion of gametes here. There is fusion of gametes here. Now these gametes, in the case of humans, yes, in the case of humans, it is sperm as well as egg. In the case of plants, it is the male gametophyte and the female gametophyte, which I'll be or female gametes, which I'll be telling you in today's class. Don't worry about that. Okay. Now you tell me, what about the offspring? What about the offspring? What is an offspring? That is the child here. Is the child clone here? Could you tell me in the chat? Yes? Is the child here a clone here? See, in the case of asexual reproduction, we learnt about the offspring of the child is a clone. But what about in sexual reproduction? Does it look exactly like their parents? You tell me in the chat, do you and your parents, do you exactly look alike? No. There are some changes, right, between you and your parents. Some might say your eyes look like your mother, some might say your nose looks like your father. But not exact copy of it, right? So in the case of sexual reproduction, there are variations. There are what? There are variations here. Now what are these variations? Variations means changes. Variation means changes which are happening from parent to the child. Now, why do we get variations here? The answer is very simple. The variation here is because of the whenever the gametes are fusing, the two different genetic materials are fusing. That's why the variations are happening in the case of sexual reproduction. And because of these variations, students, because of these variations, that could lead to evolution. And these variations are very, very helpful in the case of sexual reproduction. Now, let me tell you about flower now. Right? Let me tell you about flower. Now, all of us know flower. All of us love flower. Like especially I love jasmine flower a lot. I love hibiscus flower a lot. Let me tell you in the chat which is your somatic variations. Yes. Now, quickly tell me in the chat, in the case of plants, which is the reproductive organ? See, in the case of humans, we know. In the case of humans, we know the reproductive organ. But what about plants? What are the reproductive organs here? In the case of plants, the reproductive organs are none other than the flower. The flower is actually the reproductive organ of the plant. Yes, the same flower which you hold in your hand. Alright, the flower bear the reproductive organs and are site of sexual reproduction. Yeah, the site of sexual reproduction. Now students, if you look at a flower, it has 4 different whorls. It has 4 different whorls. Now what do I mean by whorls? When I say whorls, I mean 4 different layers. The outermost layer, the outermost whorl here is nothing but the calyx. The outermost whorl is calyx. Now calyx is also called as sepals. Remember that? Calyx is also called as sepals. Then we have inside the sepals. See, this is the outermost whorl, that is the calyx, also called as sepals. Then inside to the calyx, we have the corolla. And corolla is nothing but the petal. Corolla is nothing but the petal. Clear? Corolla is nothing but the petal. Now, those are the 2 outside whorls. And these 2 whorls, calyx plus corolla, are called as what? Non-essential whorls. Now, why are they called non-essential whorls? Because they are not directly involved in the sexual reproduction. That's why they are called as non-essential whorls. Clear? Now, if you look at inner to the calyx and corolla, inner to the calyx and corolla, we have the androecium as well as gynoecium. Inner to the calyx and corolla, we have androecium as well as gynoecium. Students, what is an androecium? Androecium is a collection of stamen. Androecium is nothing but collection of stamen. Collection of stamen is called as an androecium. Now, what is a gynoecium? Gynoecium is nothing but collection of pistil. Collection of pistil. Collection of pistil is called as gynoecium. Now, students, remember both androecium and gynoecium, both of them are what called as essential whorls because they are directly involved in the sexual reproduction. That is why they are called as essential whorls. But here they were called as non-essential because they were not directly involved in the sexual reproduction. But when I say not directly involved, but are they involved in some way? The answer is yes. How? These petals, do you see these petals? What could be the function of petals? Not just to look beautiful. Their function is to look beautiful and also attract the pollinators because they are indirectly involved in the reproduction. Now let's understand the first one here. Let's understand the androecium. I hope none of you have any doubt here. Students, you can ask me doubt anytime. I will reply to you on live. That is the benefit of watching live videos than recorded. Because if you have any doubt in botany, any doubt in biology, you can ask me right now and I will answer the question. That is the benefit of watching it live. Now, when I told you androecium is nothing but a collection of stamen. Yes, I told you it's a collection of stamen. But what is a stamen? Stamen is nothing but the male reproductive part here. The male reproductive part. And this stamen has 2 different parts. A stamen has 2 different parts. For example, the 2 different parts looks like this. It has a long, slender structure which is called as a filament. The long, slender stalk is called as a filament. And do you see this bilobed structure here? It's called as bilobed because there are 2 lobes attached like this. It's a higher level I'm teaching you, but it's a bilobed structure. This is nothing but the anther. This is nothing but the anther. And together, anther plus filament is called as your stamen. It's called as what? Stamen. Clear? I hope that part is clear to all of you. Stamen is the male reproductive organ. The stamen is made up of two different parts. One is called as anther and other one is called as filament. Filament is long and slender and it is attached to the base here. And this is called as anther, and inside the anther, what do you find? Inside the anther you find the pollen grains. Pollen grains are found inside the anther. Have you noticed when you touch a hibiscus plant? Yes, when you touch a hibiscus plant, you see this white, yellow powder on your hand. That is nothing but the pollen grains. Clear? And students, do not worry, all of these slides and all of these slides notes will be given completely free on the Telegram channel. Okay? So what is an anther? Terminal bilobed structure that produces pollen grains. So, then we have filaments. What are filaments? Filaments are long and slender stalk whose proximal end, when I say proximal end, this is called as proximal end. Proximal end is attached to the thalamus. Clear? So anther prepares pollen grains. Is it right to say like this? No. Anther is a structure inside which the pollen grains are created. And the preparation of pollen grains is called as what? Microsporogenesis. Anther is just a structure which holds the pollen grains. Right? It holds the pollen grains and inside which pollen grains are made. Clear? Anther doesn't prepare the pollen grains. Anther is a structure which has the pollen grains. Clear? Anther is pollen grains are prepared by a structure which is called as sporangium, which you will study in your class 11th and 12th. Okay. We have multiple layers such as your outer layer, epidermis, middle layer, endothecium, tapetum. All these are extra layers of a anther which is not in your syllabus. But for now, all you need to know is a stamen has two parts. One is the long slender filament. The other one is called as a anther. And inside the anther, what do we have? Inside the anther, we have the pollen grains. Clear? Concept clear? Next slide. Now, next one is, I told you, the pollen grains represent the male gametophyte. Now, this is a very important line if you want to understand the concept. Pollen grain is the male gametophyte. They are not the gametes. This concept I have told you, so not only you students, I have been teaching this concept for NEET students also. Because many students out there think pollen grains are the gametes. Just like how we have sperm and egg in the case of male, many students out there think pollen grains is the gamete. It is not the gamete. Pollen grain is called as a male gametophyte. Inside the pollen grain, right? If this is a pollen grain, inside the pollen grain we have the gametes. Inside the pollen grain we have the gametes. But pollen grain is not a gamete. Concept should be clear to all of you. Don't by heart any of this. Because if you by heart right now, you might get marks. But if you really want to understand the concepts of botany and biology, you need to understand the concepts. Don't by heart all this. Okay? Clear all of you? So students, remember, pollen grains are not the gametes. Pollen grain is a gametophyte. Inside the pollen grain, we find the two male gametes. Where? Inside the pollen grain. Amazing all of you are. Now, let's understand pistil now. Can we understand pistil? Male structure done and dusted. Now let's understand pistil. Now students, listen to me very carefully. Pistil again is made up of three different parts here. Yes, pistil is made up of three different parts. Let me draw it for you. Let me draw the structure for you. The receptive, it's something called as a receptive stigma. Yes, this is a receptive stigma. Then we have long slender style. Then we have a bulbous structure and large structure called as a ovary. So stigma, this receptive cord is called as stigma. This long slender is called as a style. And this bulge part, right? The swollen part is called as a ovary. It's called as what? Ovary. Now, listen to me very carefully. This is a concept clearing session for all of you. I know I should have started teaching all of you long back, but it's never too late to understand these concepts. Now, some of you might think, ovary is the female gamete. Is the ovary the female gamete? The answer is no, sir. Ovary is not a female gamete. Then what about ovule? Is ovule a female gamete? Tell me in the chat right now. If all of you know the concept, tell me right now, is the ovule the female gamete? The answer is no again. See students, inside the ovary we have a structure called as ovule. All of us know this is nothing but ovule. Is ovule the female gamete here? The answer is no. Now what about the inside the ovule? There is one more structure. Inside the ovule, there is one more structure called as embryo sac. Embryo sac. Now is this embryo sac a female gamete here? I told you in the case of pollen grains were called as what? Pollen grains were called as male gametophyte. Just like male gametophyte in the case of male, this embryo sac here is called as female gametophyte. It is called as what? Female gametophyte. Now inside the embryo sac, students, listen to me very carefully. This is a concept clear for all of you today. Inside the embryo sac, we have the egg cell. And this egg cell right here is the female gamete in the case of plants. I don't want to teach you superficial, just for you to pass. I want all of you to understand the concept here. So which is the female gamete? The female gamete in the case of plants is nothing but the egg cell. Egg cell is found inside the embryo sac. Embryo sac is found inside the ovule. Ovule is found inside the ovary. Concept is clear. Students, I know some of you might be confused now. Sir, in the school they never taught us all this. In the school they told me stigma is style an ovary, and inside the ovary we have the ovule. But that's not the correct way to study. You need to understand what exactly you need to study here. So we have stigma, style and ovary are the parts of the pistil. Now inside the ovary we have the ovule. Inside the ovule we have the embryo sac. Inside the embryo sac we have the egg cell. Egg cell is found inside the embryo sac. And just how pollen grain was a male gametophyte. How pollen grain was a male gametophyte. Just like that, embryo sac is the female gametophyte here. Someone is asking me, sir, board exam is very near. Will the entire syllabus be completed here? It will be completed. It is my promise. Because I came here yesterday to the office. I came here on Sunday to the office and I recorded videos for you. I recorded Letter to the God. I recorded the Fire and Ice. I also recorded, what is that? I recorded the poem, that is the Dust of Snow. I also recorded the heart, the structure of heart in 10 minutes. You will get a video today. Today you will get a video telling that structure of hearts in 10 minutes. Just watch that video for 10 minutes. You will understand the heart completely. Nothing else. The entire syllabus will be over. Okay? Now I hope this part is clear to all of you. Okay? So we have the stigma, style and the ovary. Parts of the pistil. Clear? This is the embryo sac which I told you. This is the embryo sac. Inside the embryo sac we have the egg cell. The egg cell is nothing but the female gamete. Clear? Now, some of your students might be wondering, sir, students, tell me in the chat right now if you're understanding, or should I reduce the content, or should I reduce the speed also? Because what happens when you're teaching, right? Sometimes the content which I have to tell you, it exceeds more and more. So tell me in the chat whenever you feel like, so you're going too fast, can you slow down a little? Right? Tell me in the chat. Okay? I'll respond to all of you one by one. Any doubt you can ask me anytime. Okay? Now, let's understand the next concept called as pollination. Now, one question can come here. Actually, I have solved last week I was solving some board questions where I saw at least 1 or 2 questions have been coming from pollination. Now, what is this pollination? What is the meaning of pollination? Now, pollination is very simple. Listen to me very, very carefully now. 100% attention. Pollination is nothing but, I will draw a diagram for you. Forget all this. Diagrams are more important in biology. Pollination, I'll show you with the help of a diagram. Understand the diagram. Okay. Now, I told you, this is a filament. This is the anther here. Right? This is your filament. this is the anther. Together they are called as, why is this not writing? Together they are called as stamen. Right? Together they are called as stamen now. Clear? Now, let me write on the female also now. This is the stamen. Let me draw the pistil. Yes, this is the pistil. This is the pistil. This is the stigma, style, and ovary. Yes? Now listen to me very carefully. What is pollination? Forget all the definition in the world. Understand with the help of a diagram. Okay? Now this particular anther has what? This particular anther has pollen grains. Yes, it has pollen grains. And listen to me very carefully. Pollination is a phenomena where pollen grains, pollination is a phenomena where pollen grains are transferred. Pollen grains are transferred from anther to the stigma. That's all. The transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma is called as pollination. Understand the diagram? Transfer of pollen grains from anther, because we know inside the anther we have the pollen grains. From anther to the stigma is called as pollination. I hope that is clear now. See here, the transfer of pollen grains, that is to the stigma or a pistil of a flower, is called as pollination. The external agents are used to achieve this pollination. There are many methods for pollination, like biotic factors or biotic factors. How many of you have seen that flower? No, you take this flower, oof, you do. All the seeds will fly. That is called as dandelions. It's called as dandelions. That is the dispersal of the seed. Yes. So pollen grains are also transferred by biotic factors and also abiotic factors. Now, what are these biotic factors? Biotic factors means biological factors, like honeybees. Yes, there are honeybees, there are bats, there are birds. Yes, there are birds, like hummingbird. But what about abiotic factors? Abiotic factors, which includes water, air, right? Water, air, wind, all that are abiotic factors. Now let's understand what does now types of pollination, right? What is types of pollination? Now I'll be teaching you actually 3 types of pollination now. I'll be teaching you how many? 3 types. But here I've written only 2 here. What is self-pollination, cross-pollination? What are the 3 types here? Listen to me very carefully and you'll be like, yes sir, there are 3 types actually. Ready? Now first we'll understand self-pollination now. Okay, let's understand self-pollination. Again we'll draw a diagram. Let's draw a diagram. What is self-pollination? Listen to me very carefully. This is the stigma, style, and ovary. Yes, this is stigma. Let me label. All of you do not remember. Stigma, style, and ovary. This is the filaments. This is a anther. This is a anther. Then we have petals here. Then we have petals. Then we have sepals here. We have sepals here. And this is the entire flower now. This is the entire flower. Now what is self-pollination? What is self-pollination? Now I told you, what is pollination? Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma. Now, if the pollen grains are transferred, if the pollen grains are transferred from anther to the stigma of same flower, it is called as self-pollination. Same flower. Transfer of pollen grains from anther. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of same flower is called as self-pollination. That is called as self-pollination. Same plant, same flower, not even plant, same flower. That is called as self-pollination. That is called as self-pollination. Clear? Quickly tell me in the chat if you have any doubt right now. Sai Ravi, Dharbavi, ask me right now any doubt about self-pollination. If there is no doubt about self-pollination, I'll teach you now cross-pollination. Ready? Quickly tell me in the chat. I want to see respond. Why is there no Josh? Show some more energy, all of you. Early morning, we're studying. Now, that is called as self-pollination. Transfer of pollen grains from anther. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of another flower is called as, that is now cross-pollination. This is now cross-pollination. If you want synergids, antipodal and excel, will there? Synergids, antipodal cells, excel is not in your syllabus. Do you want me to teach that? Do you want me to teach you what is synergids, antipodal cells, excel and everything? Because I have a diagram. If all of you want, I can teach. I don't have an issue. Teaching, I love teaching, so I'm teaching you. Do you want me to teach what is synergids, what is antipodal cells, what is an excel, what is a central nuclei, what is polar nuclei? If you want me to teach all of those, I can teach you all of those. Not an issue. See here, self-pollination is what? First, understand self-pollination. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of same flower is called as self-pollination. Now, what is cross-pollination? Cross-pollination is nothing but transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of another flower, same plant. Can you see this? Same plant. This is the second type. Now, this self-pollination is type 1. This is called as second type. Don't worry this. You don't have to remember this. Remember, the second type is transfer of pollen grains from anther. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of another flower. Another flower, but same plant. Within the same plant is also called as cross-pollination. It is also called as cross-pollination. Now listen to me very carefully. The type third. Type third. I told you there are three types. Now, transfer of pollen grains. Transfer of pollen grains from anther. Anther to the stigma here. To the stigma of different plant. Third type is what? Third type is completely different plant now. That is transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a flower of different plant. I'll tell you the difference once again. Listen to me very carefully. In the first case, that is self-pollination, it was the same flower. It was the same flower. In the second case, it was another flower. It was a different flower, but same plant. It was same plant. But in the third case, it is completely different plant only. Completely different plant altogether. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma of different plant. That is the third type of pollination. Clear? You don't have to remember this. Xenogamy, geitonogamy, or you don't need to remember this. Just remember what is cross-pollination and self-pollination. Any doubt, students? Students, if you have any doubt, you can ask me right now because I am live right now. Because when you're watching recorded, you might not have a, you can't get your doubts cleared on live. Or if you're in a class, you might be in your class, and that time you might be thinking, if I ask a very stupid doubt, what if my friends, think I'm stupid? That will happen because it used to happen to me. Because when I was in my class 10th, I used to never ask doubts. I used to think I understood everything. But as soon as I go home, I will have some doubt here and there. But I want every student here right now to feel very safe and to not be judged at all. So any doubt you can ask me, anytime, any type of doubt, I will clear it for you. Okay? Now, what is agents of pollination? Already discussed to you. That is biotic agents like animals and abiotic agents like wind and water. Wind and water. Clear? Now we learned about pollination. What is pollination? Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma. Now can you see here? Pollen grain has landed here. Pollen grain has landed here now. Now, I'll teach you double fertilization. Wait, I'll teach you double fertilization. You want to know that? Tell me you want to know. Come, I'll teach you. One, not a big deal. Very easy concepts. All of these are very easy concepts. But I don't think you have double fertilization in your syllabus, but that's why I skipped it. But here, I'll teach you. Now, Remember the diagram I told you. Remember the diagram I told you here. This diagram here. Here I told you this is called as ovary. Inside the ovary there is something called as ovule. The outside one is called as ovary. Inside the ovary we have the ovule. Inside the ovule, listen to me very carefully. All of you will be learning right now a neat level concept. Inside the ovule there is something called as embryo sac. Inside the ovule there is something called as embryo sac. Now listen to me very carefully now. 100% attention. Now I told you this embryo sac is nothing but a female gametophyte. I told you already. Embryo sac is not a gamete. Embryo sac is not a gamete. Embryo sac is a female gametophyte which has the gamete. Now I'll teach you the structure of embryo sac. I will show you the structure of embryo sac now. Okay. This is the structure of embryo sac. This right here is the structure of embryo sac. Now let me tell you the labeling inside. The labeling inside the embryo sac is very easy. Near the there are two ends here. There are two different ends here. One end is called as chalazial end. One end is called as chalazial end. The other end is called as micropylar end. Listen to me very carefully. The embryo sac has two different ends, two different parts. See, this one part is here, one part is here, this pen. Just like this pen has two different ends, the embryo sac also has two different ends. One is called as chalazial end, other one is called as micropylar end. Listen to me very carefully. Towards the chalazial end, there are three different cells. There are how many? There are three different cells near the chalazial end. And these three different cells are called as antipodal cells. They are called as what? Antipodal cells. How many? Three different cells near the antipodal cells near the chalazial region. Now, let's understand near the micropylar region. What about micropylar region? Near the micropylar region, also you have three different cells again. How many cells? Three different cells near the micropylar region. Now, these three different cells are called as what? There are two synergids. And between the two synergid, there is something called as egg cell. There is something called as what? Egg cell. So how many cells near that micropylar region? Micropylar region also has three different cells. Clear to all of you? Yes, sir, it is clear. Now, what about in the middle? In the middle we have two different nuclei. All of you should know what is nuclei in cell. Inside the cell we have the nuclei. Yes, there are two different nuclei called as polar nuclei in the center. Now what happens, listen to me very carefully. Now these two polar nuclei will fuse together completely. When these two polar nuclei fuse together completely, they are called as central cell. They are called as what? Central cell. So totally how many cells are there totally now? The total number of cells here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this together they are fusing together. So it's counted as one cell. So in total there are 7 cells. But how many nuclei? The number of nuclei here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So 8 nucleated, 7 celled is the structure of embryo sac. Now, why did I teach you embryo sac structure? Here, in fertilization. If you want to understand the fertilization, you need to know what is structure of embryo sac. Now, what is happening now? Pollination, pollen grain from the anther, pollen grain landed here. From the anther, pollen grain has landed here on the stigma. pollen grain has landed on the stigma now. Okay. Now, as soon as the pollen grains lands on the stigma, the pollen grain will actually absorb the moisture. Yes, this stigma has certain liquid on top of it. The pollen grain will absorb the liquid. The pollen grain will swell up. The pollen grain will completely swell up. When the pollen grain swells up completely, there are small holes on the pollen grains. Through that small hole, there is a development of pollen tube. Through a small hole in the pollen grain, there is a development of pollen tube. Now this is called as pollen tube development. Pollen tube is developing now. And listen to me very carefully. Inside the pollen grain, there are how many gametes? Inside the pollen grain, there are 2 gametes. Inside the pollen grain, there are 2 gametes. Now these 2 gametes will travel here. Can you see? Male germ cell, there are 2 of them. How many are there? 2 are there. Now this is called as pollen tube. Now the 2 male gametes will travel. They will travel and they will enter inside the embryo sac. Where are they entering? First they will enter ovary. First the pollen tube will enter the ovary. Then it will enter inside the ovule. Then it will enter inside the embryo sac. The pollen tube is entering inside the embryo sac now. See here, this structure here. Here, remember, this is the structure of your embryo sac. So the pollen tube is entering inside the embryo sac into the, what is this structure called? This structure was called as synergid. Here, let me erase this. There are how many male gametes? In the pollen tube there are 2 male gametes. Listen to me very carefully. There are 2 male gametes inside the pollen tube. Where did it come from? It came from the pollen grain. Now this is the synergid. Synergid are not on top like this. The actual diagram is this. There are 2 synergids here. The pollen tube which came from top will enter inside the synergids. It will enter inside the synergid and the pollen tube will burst open now. The pollen tube will burst open and it will release the 2 male gametes. It will release how many? 2 male gametes from the pollen grain. Now out of the 2 male gametes, one gamete will fuse with the egg cell. One gamete will fuse with the egg cell. So one gamete is fusing where? Out of the 2 male gametes, one male gamete plus the egg cell, which will form what? Which will form the zygote. Now this is called as one fusion. It is the first fusion here. It is the first fusion which is happening here. It is also called as syngamy. Not for you. It's called as syngamy. This is the first type of fusion. Now students, I'll ask you one more question. What happens to the other male gamete? Where does it go? The second male gamete, right? I told you. 2 male gametes are coming. The second male gamete will fuse where? Do you see this? Central cell. What is central cell? Central cell is made up of 2 polar nuclei. I told you. The central cell, see, this 2 polar nuclei will fuse together. They will completely fuse together and they form what? They form the central cell. Now to this central cell, the second male gamete will fuse. The second male gamete will fuse with the central cell. And this is called as triple fusion. Why is it called triple fusion now? This is called as triple fusion. Triple fusion. Now why is it called as triple fusion? Because how many nuclei here? In total there are 3 nuclei here. How many? 3 nuclei. Polar nuclei, how many were there? 1 nuclei, second nuclei, and 1 nuclei from the male gamete. So in total there are 3 nuclei here. So that's why it's called as triple fusion. Now this is also one type of fusion. Here also one fusion is happening. Here also one fusion is happening. And in the center also one fusion is happening. So first fusion is happening with the formation of zygote. Second fusion, the second fusion here. The second fusion, that is two male gametes plus central cell, is giving you what? It is giving you endosperm. It is giving you endosperm. And this is called as triple fusion. So this one is called as one fusion. The zygote formation is second fusion. So how many fusion? Two fusions totally happening. It's called as double fertilization. That is why it's called as double fertilization. Any doubt? Ask me right now. Any doubt? Ask me right now. The first fusion is between the first male gamete and egg cell, which gives you zygote. The second male gamete fuses with the central cell. That is called as triple fusion. That is the second type of fertilization. So in total there are how many fertilizations? In total there are 2 fertilizations. Let me write for you. Let me write for you one more time here. There are the first male gamete. First male gamete plus egg cell will give you zygote. This is the first type of fertilization. The second male gamete. The second male gamete plus the central cell. What is central cell made up of? Central cell is made up of two polar nuclei. So what will happen? One male gamete here, two gametes here. That is why this is called as what? This is called as triple fusion. This is called as triple fusion. Now this will result in what? This will result in endosperm. This is the second type of fertilization. This is called as second type of fertilization. So in total, how many fertilization happening? One fertilization here, one fertilization here. That is why they are called as, this is called as double fertilization. It's called as double fertilization. Now, this zygote will later become what? This zygote later will become embryo. Now, what is that? Endosperm. Endosperm is nothing but a nutritive tissue. It provides nutrition. And this, who does it provide nutrition to? This endosperm will provide nutrition to the developing embryo. The embryo is developing. So embryo needs nutrition to grow. The nutrition for embryo to grow is given by endosperm. And this is, zygote is always diploid in nature, but this endosperm is triploid in nature. Endosperm is triploid in nature. I think I went little outside your NCRT, but this is the information which I had to give you. This is the information I had to give all of you. Clear? Now, done. Now, double fertilization is over. Double fertilization is over. Now, what about post-fertilization? After fertilization, what is happening after fertilization? After fertilization, there are a few things which is happening. One is the endosperm development happens. Now, not in your syllabus. Embryo development will happen. Not in your syllabus. Embryo development will happen. Then there is maturation of ovule and maturation of ovary. I told you, there is stigma, style and ovary. Remember this very carefully. Ovary will develop into fruit. The ovary which is there, remember, stigma, style and ovary. The ovary will develop into fruit. Now what about ovule? Ovule will develop into seed. Ovule will develop into seed. Ovary will develop into fruit. Clear? Any doubt here? Ask me right now, everyone. Ask me right now. Now this is a germination, it's not in syllabus, it's fine. So when we have a seed, right, this is called as seed and this is a dicot seed. This is a dicot seed. Why dicot seed? Because there are two cotyledons here. The seed has something called as embryonal axis. This is called as embryonal axis. On this embryonal axis, we have something called as plumule. The plumule will give rise to shoot and something called as radicle. Radicle will give rise to root. Radicle will give rise to root later on. Clear? Now, I told you fruit, that is, ovules mature into seed, ovary develops into fruit. The wall of the fruit is called as pericarp. Called as pericarp. So that is the entire coverage of the bottom part of the chapter. That is the complete sexual reproduction in plants. Any doubt? Any doubt here? Any doubt in double fertilization? You can ask me right now. Any doubt in double fertilization? No doubt. Amazing. If there is no doubt, I'll be teaching you now male reproductive system. Ready? Is everyone ready? Arey yaar, just tell me ready, sir. I am ready. I am ready to learn more. If you finish this part, right? If you finish this part now, the chapter will be over. Next, I'll be teaching you heredity chapter. Next, I'll be teaching you heredity chapter. Don't be confused. Like the video also. Don't be confused, all of you. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Yes, this is a new channel, and I have taken up this big opportunity to teach 9th and 10th. So because when I teach 11th and 12th, I realize some of the students don't have a good foundation. That is why I decided I'll start teaching 9th and 10th also. I'll start teaching 9th and 10th. So the foundation is building up. If I build a good foundation for 9th and 10th students, when you go to 11th and 12th, when you study from me again in 11th and 12th, I'll make sure you understand concepts better. Okay, ready? Now, male reproductive system. Okay, now students, before we understand male reproductive system, in your NCERT, if you open right now, there are certain other information like what are the developmental changes in the case of male and female, right? I do not have slides for that, but I'll just tell you verbally. Development of the male and female has certain common points, and there are certain different points. For example, both in the case of male and female, when a male or female reaches puberty. What is puberty now? How many of you know what is the meaning of puberty? The meaning of puberty is very simple. When a human reaches reproductive stage in life, a particular male or female, it could be any of them. When a male or a female reaches the reproductive stage in life, that is called as puberty. And during this puberty, there are a lot of hormonal changes. Now because of these hormonal changes, there are certain changes in the body of the male and female. For example, in the case of males, there is broadening of shoulder, increase in height, development of facial hair. Yes, there is development of hair on the genitalias, development of hair in the underarms. Yes, in armpits. So these are all of the changes which are happening in the case of male. In the case of female, there is a development of mammary glands. There is the starting of menstrual cycle is happening starting in the case of females. Yes, in the case of females, there is also increase in the hip size, increase in height. In the case of male, there is the development of the voice box. That is, voice becomes more deep in the case of males. But apart from all that, let's understand the next part of the chapter, that is the male reproductive system. Now listen to me very carefully. Here I'll tell you where exactly the question will come from in your board examination. I want all of you to pay extra attention there. Now, what is the location? What is the location of the male reproductive system? The entire male reproductive system is located in the pelvis region. Now, what is this pelvis region? Pelvis region is nothing but the lower abdomen region. Between the two bones, the bones are called as coxal bones. Okay, between the two coxal bones, in the pelvic region, the male reproductive system is located. Okay, includes a pair of testes. What is there in the case of male reproductive structure? In the case of male reproductive structure, there is a pair of testes. When I say pair means two. So in the case of male, there are two testes along with accessory ducts. There's something called as accessory ducts. Apart from that, there is glands and also the external genitalia. There is also something called as external genitalia. The external genitalia is nothing but the penis in the case of males. This is P, okay? Penis in the case of male. Now, apart from all of this, you also need to know there is something called as primary sex organ and secondary sex organ. I'll tell you briefly. The primary sex organ is testis because it is directly involved in the gamete formation. Rest everything is called as secondary sex organs. Okay. Now, there's one question which keeps on repeating. One question which keeps on repeating here is, what is the function of scrotum? What is the function of scrotum? The function of scrotum is very simple. First of all, testis is located outside the abdominal cavity. I told you the entire reproductive system is in the pelvic region. But the testis is located outside the abdominal cavity in a pouch-like structure called as scrotum. Yes, the structure situated outside the abdominal cavity within a pouch called as scrotum. Why? This is a repeated board question. The answer is very simple. Temperature of the scrotal sac is around 2 to 2.5 degrees lesser than the body temperature. The reason why testis is in this pouch-like structure or outside the abdominal cavity is because the temperature inside the testis is supposed to be 2 to 3 degrees less than the body temperature. Now you will ask me, sir, why do they need less temperature? The reason is very simple. Because for the formation of sperm, that is making a ideal for sperm development and sperm formation. If the sperm needs to be produced or needs to be synthesized, it requires a less temperature than the body temperature. That is why testis is located outside the abdominal cavity in a pouch-like structure. Why? Because it requires less temperature or cooler temperature for the formation of sperm. Now, if you look at the NCERT diagram, can you see here the parts? This is the testis. Inside the testis, what happens? Inside the testis, there is formation of sperm. Inside the testis, there is formation of sperm. Testis is located in a pouch-like structure called as scrotum. Testis is located in a pouch-like structure called as scrotum. Then there is different ducts. What is a duct? Duct is like a pipe where the transportation happens. In your NCERT, they have given you only one duct, that is the vas deferens. There is only one duct that is called as vas deferens is given in your NCERT. Apart from vas deferens, are there any ducts? The answer is yes. There are many ducts actually, such as rete testis. There is something called as rete testis, epididymis, vasa efferentia, vas deferens. But right now, all you need to do is the only duct, the outermost duct is vas deferens. Now listen to me very carefully. What if I tie this? What if I cut the vas deferens and tie the vas deferens? What happens? If I cut and tie the vas deferens, will the sperm be able to travel up? No. That is why it's called as a surgical method, also called as vasectomy. Vasectomy is a surgical method to stop pregnancy. Okay, to stop pregnancy, it is a surgical method. Now, what about the other glands? Here in total there are 3 glands, but your NCERT is giving you only one. The gland is giving you here is prostate gland. Here, can you see this is a prostate gland. Now, what is the function of prostate gland? The function of prostate gland is very simple. The function of prostate gland is to produce, to secrete certain substances. Certain substances like fructose, calcium, and also certain enzymes. All of these are produced by the prostate gland. There is supposed to be one more gland here. That is called as the seminal vesicle gland. The seminal vesicle gland also produces all of these. Now, why are all of these important? Because the development of the sperm requires energy. Yes, sperm requires nutrients to survive. Fructose is nutrients. For sperm needs to move. For the movement of the sperm, there is calcium is required. During the fertilization between the sperm and the egg, enzymes are required. Everything is present all of these are present inside the prostate gland. There is one more gland called as bulbourethral gland, which provides lubrication during the intercourse, but that is not given here. Okay, what is given here is prostate gland, which produces certain substances which are also sent to the ejaculatory duct here. From here, the sperm plus the secretions are coming. Finally, throughout the opening, they are released. The semen is released outside. That is called as the complete ejaculation. Clear? Can you see this red color? This is called as erectile tissues. The erectile tissues is because here this is called as penis. Penis is the external genitalia here. Apart from that, can you see this urethra? Now this urethra is nothing but a common passage. It is a common passage for both urine as well as semen release. Both of the things. Semen as well as urine release. Clear? I am teaching you so detailed. Every single part is covered here. Oh, seminal vesicle is here. Sorry, I forgot. I didn't see. Seminal vesicle is here. Seminal vesicle. So seminal vesicle will also produce all of this. There are two glands which is given in NCERT. The two glands are prostate gland and seminal vesicle gland. Two different glands. Clear? There's one more gland that is not given here, that is called as bulbourethral gland, but don't worry about that. There are two glands here called as prostate gland as well as seminal vesicle gland. What do they produce? They produce fructose, calcium and enzymes. All of these are required for the sperm development. Clear? Clear. Amazing, all of you are. This is a previous year question, all of you. Any doubt you can ask me right now. It is a PYQ right here. What is the function of seminal vesicle? What is the function of prostate gland? Direct 2-mark question. Direct 2-mark question. So don't miss out on those marks. You might think this chapter is very easy. I love this chapter. But when the questions come, right, you will realize. Clear? Now, where were we? This is the structure of sperm. Sperm has a head region, a middle piece. This is called as middle piece. Middle piece has something called as mitochondria. The powerhouse of the cell is present here, and it has a long tail region. Clear? Now, that is the end of the male reproductive structure. Now we'll understand the female reproductive structure. Ready? Any doubt? Ask me right now. Any doubt regarding the male reproductive structure? Ask me right now. I'll clear it out for you. We learned about testis. Testis is the structure where sperms are produced. Testis is stored in a sac-like structure called as scrotum. Why? To reduce the body to reduce the temperature. Why reduce the temperature? Because the sperm development requires less temperature. Then we also learned about the different ducts called as vas deferens. If you cut the vas deferens called as vasectomy. Then we learned about two different glands called as seminal vesicle gland and also the prostate gland. What is the function? The function of the prostate and seminal vesicle is to produce certain substances. And the external genitalia is called as penis. And there is an inner lining, something called as inner tube called as urethra, which is a common point for releasing of the sperm as well as the urine. Clear? Any doubt, ask me. Diagram. My diagram is very bad. This is a diagram which you need to study. If I draw this diagram, it will be very difficult to. If I draw this diagram, it will be very difficult. So that's why I put NCERT snip here. See, you need to understand every labeling here. Every labeling you can understand here. Every labeling, understand here. What is vas deferens? It's a duct. Testis is a site for sperm production. Prostate gland and seminal vesicle gland are glands which produce certain substances. Penis is the external genitalia. Something called as urethra. Urethra is a common passage for both urine and sperm release. Then there is ureterus and bladder, which you study in the, these two structures you study in the excretory. These two structures you study in the life process chapter. Okay. Urinary bladder and ureters you study in the life process chapter, not here. Clear? Now, the female reproductive system now. The female reproductive system mainly has again two different parts. One is called as a primary sex organ, that is here called as ovaries. The primary sex organ here is ovaries. Just like how in the case of, solve some PYQs. I will make sure you have a separate session for PYQs. What say? Tomorrow I'll come live, not tomorrow, I'll come live on the, after 1 or 2 days. When other teachers, see, next, other teachers also needs to get some chance, right? There are totally 5 teachers on the channel. Everyone should get chance. So I will bring a separate session on top 25 PYQs from this chapter. Don't worry, I got you covered in every angle. Okay. Now, in the case of male reproductive structure, we learned about testis. Testis was the primary sex organ. Just like testis, in the case of female, there is something called as ovaries. There is something called as ovaries. And how testis was producing? How testis was producing sperm, ovaries produce egg, also called as ovum, also called as secondary oocyte. So ovaries produce what? Ovaries produce egg, also called as ovum, also called as secondary oocyte. But don't worry about these. Don't worry about this definition. Just learn it's called as egg or ovum. Now, what about the other parts of the female reproductive system? The other parts are very simple. The other parts is a pair of oviduct. Oviduct is also called as fallopian tube. Also called as fallopian tube. Then they have uterus, cervix, and external genitalia. Look at the diagram. Look at the diagram. Here, can you see a pair of ovaries? A pair of ovaries. And ovaries are producing what? Ovaries are producing ovum. Ovaries are producing ovum. Then we have oviduct or fallopian tube. Oviduct or fallopian tube. Now, what is the function of fallopian tube? Why is it important? Listen to me very carefully. I told you ovary will produce ovum or egg. The egg which is produced here, right? Egg will come out here. Egg will come out. The egg is transferred to the fallopian tube. The egg is transferred to the fallopian tube. Now the egg will be here. Yes, egg will be here. Now the sperm, if there is intercourse, if there is fertilization happening, the sperm will enter here. The sperm will enter and it will travel here. And the sperm as well as the egg, they will fuse together in this region here. The fertilization, right? The complete fertilization between sperm and egg. The complete fusion between sperm and egg is happening where? Happening inside the oviduct. It is not happening here, it is not happening here, it is not happening here. The fertilization, the fusion of sperm and egg is happening where? It is happening in the fallopian tube, also called as oviduct. Clear? Now, this entire region here, can you see this? This is called as uterus. It is also called as uterus, also called as womb. It is also called as what? It is also called as womb of the mother. You say, right, mother has a womb where the baby is growing in the starting. That is the womb. Clear? This is the cervix and this is the vagina. Cervix plus vagina, together it is called as birth canal. Birth canal. Now through this birth canal only, the baby is coming out. The small baby or the fetus is coming out from the vagina. Clear? Amazing. Very easy this is. Very, very easy. Clear? And uterus, can you see this uterus or womb? This is the cervix. Uterus is opening into vagina through the cervix. Now I told you ovaries are the primary sex organ. Fallopian tube, uterus and birth canal here are the accessory ducts. Clear? All the parts are not there in your syllabus. Here this I'll tell you. If you look at the structure of ovary, placenta will come, bro. I'll come to placenta, wait. If you look at the wall of the uterus, there are 3 different layers. The outermost layer is called as perimetrium. Middle part is called as myometrium. The innermost layer is called as endometrium. And this endometrium here undergoes cyclic changes every month in the case of female. It undergoes cyclic changes in the case of female every month. Here, see here, fertilization is happening here in the ampulla region of the fallopian tube. No, all this is not there. Then finally, when the fusion is happening between the male and female, zygote is produced. Yes, sperm plus egg will happen what? Sperm plus egg will produce zygote. Sperm is haploid, egg is haploid, zygote is diploid. When I say diploid, it means it has 46 chromosomes, and this just has 23 and 23 chromosomes. Clear? Now here, this fertilized egg, the zygote here will keep on dividing. The zygote will keep on dividing and will form a embryo. And that embryo will develop into a baby, 10 weeks, 16 weeks and 20 weeks. And after 9 months, the baby is ready now to come out. The delivery of the baby is called as parturition. It's called as parturition. Now, one concept I'll teach you now is placenta. One concept I'll teach you is placenta now from this chapter. Now, what is this placenta? Remember, I'll show you the structure now, then I'll tell you the importance here, because this placenta is a PYQ. This placenta here is a PYQ here. Okay. Listen to me very carefully. What is placenta now? Inside, this is the mother's womb. Inside the womb, the baby is growing. Yes, baby or the fetus is growing. This is the umbilical cord here. Yes, the baby has umbilical cord. This is called as uterus. I told you already, womb or uterus. In between the baby and the uterus, there is a structure called as placenta. Between the baby and the uterus lining, there is a structure called as placenta. Now, listen to the function of placenta now. Now, all of you need food to eat. Yes, sir, I need food to eat. All of you breathe air inside. Yes, we breathe air. Does the baby needs food? Yes, sir, baby also needs food. Does the baby need oxygen? Yes, the baby will need oxygen. The transfer of oxygen, the transfer of food from the mother to the baby is happening with the help of placenta. That is the function of placenta. Now, the baby is taking oxygen, the baby is taking food. Will the baby produce waste? Will the baby produce CO2? Yes. So the transfer of waste, transfer of carbon dioxide from the baby to the outside mother's blood also is done with the help of placenta. It's an intimate connection between the uterine wall of the mother and the baby. Materials are exchanged between the mother and developing baby. What is materials? Materials can be food, waste, oxygen, carbon dioxide, everything transferring is happening with the help of placenta. Clear? All of you know what is placenta now? What is the function of placenta? Function of placenta is a PYQ. Function of placenta is a PYQ. What is parturition? Parturition means the delivery of the baby is called as parturition. Clear? Now, I told you, this is also PYQ. Listen very carefully. This is also PYQ. Previous year question. Listen to me very carefully. I told you, the sperm is entering and it is fusing with the egg cell. And I have told you, the inner layer of the uterus is called as endometrium. I showed you before. Didn't I show you this diagram here? Yeah. This is endometrium layer and myometrium, endometrium, innermost layer. For the pregnancy to happen, for the zygote or the embryo to get fixed into the, see, this is where the fertilization is happening. This is where the fertilization is happening. The egg will travel from here now. The egg will travel from here. The zygote will travel and it will get fixed here. This particular zygote will travel and it get fixed here. That is called as implantation. For implantation to happen, the endometrium layer should be thick. Yes. So every single month inside a female body, this endometrium layer will become thick. Why? It is prepared for implantation. The female body is ready for implantation. But what if there is no fertilization? What if there is no fertilization at all? Then what will happen? If there is no fertilization between sperm and egg, then this entire endometrium layer, the unfertilized egg, plus blood vessels, plus mucus, every single thing is removed out through the vagina. That is called as menstruation. That is called as menstruation. Clear? That is called as menstruation. The fate of the secondary oocyte, also called as the egg, and the ovum therefore depends upon whether it will fertilize or not. The fate of the egg will depend on whether fertilization will happen or not. This cycle of the ovum consists of menstrual cycle. So if there is no fertilization, the unfertilized egg, blood vessels, mucus, everything is removed out through the vagina. That is called as menstrual cycle. That is called as menstrual cycle. Clear? Clear? Any doubt you can ask me right now, students. Don't be shy. Don't hesitate. Let me check the chat. How many of you like the video? All of you not like the video only. I am telling so detailed concepts. All of you are so confused. Anyway. Now, last part of the chapter, that is safety. Ready for it? Ready for safety part? Ready for safety part? Contraception methods. Tell me ready, sir. Very clear. Yes, very clear. Can we start now contraception? Now, what is the meaning of seption? Before you understand contraception, before you understand contraception, understand what is the meaning of seption first. The meaning of seption is nothing but act of being pregnant. The act of being pregnant is called as seption. Contra means against pregnancy. If a chemical, if a drug, or if a technique is against pregnancy, that is called as contraception. Method to aim, prevent the seption. Method to completely stop the pregnancy is called as contraception. And in contraception, there are many methods. Many methods. For example, in temporary method, we have the natural methods, barrier methods, chemical methods, contraceptive pills. But in the case of permanent method, there is something called as surgical method. There is something called as surgical method. For example, in the case of the barrier method, in the case of barrier means what? Barricade. You might have seen, right? Whenever there is a big rally or strike is going on, police will put on barricade, right? Police will completely stop. Police will be like, stop, you cannot cross now. That is called as barrier method. In barrier method, there is something called as protective sheet. There is also called as diaphragms, cervical cap and warts. Diaphragm, cervical caps and warts. This protective sheet is nothing but the condoms. Are the protective sheet. Diaphragm, cervical caps and warts are present in the case of the female. This condoms is present for both males and females. Clear? Now, what about IUD? What is intrauterine device? IUD is very simple. Listen to me. It's a physical device that is inserted into the uterus. Remember the uterus I told you? Endometrium, myometrium, perimetrium. Inside the uterus, can you see? Inside the uterus, IUD is divided. What is IUD? Intrauterine device. Intra means what? Inside the uterus is a device. And this particular intrauterine device has multiple types. For example, there is something called as non-medicated called as Lippes loop. There is something called as copper releasing IUD. Example is copper T, copper is for multi-load 375. There is something called as hormone releasing IUD. All of them are different types of IUD, which has a different types of action mechanism to stop the sperm or make the acidity or hormonal changes. Many methods are there. Then there is oral contraceptive. Oral contraceptive needs to be taken throughout a month. This is not the emergency contraceptive. This is not an IPL. This is the oral contraceptive which needs to be taken every 7 days. Can you see? First 7 days it has to 21 days it has to be continuously taken. Clear? And what is present in oral contraceptive? Inside oral contraceptive, there are certain hormones called as progesterone as well as estrogen. Now this progesterone and estrogen will completely imbalance the hormonal inside the female body. If there is a hormonal imbalance, there is no production of eggs. Clear? Then there is surgical methods. In surgical methods, the first one is vasectomy, where the vas deferens is cut open and it is tied. If vas deferens is cut open and tied, will the sperm move up? Will the sperm will be moving up? The answer is no. The sperm will not move up. Done. What about tubectomy? In tubectomy, fallopian tube is cut. Fallopian tube or oviduct is cut and tied up. Now you tell me, can the egg move like this now? Can the egg move? No, the egg cannot move. Can the sperm also move here? No, sir, the sperm also cannot move now. Done. That is tubectomy. That is surgical method. Yes. The last one is infertility. That is a couple which is unable to produce offsprings. Now, last part I want all of you to read here because there is a PYQ here. Last part here of the chapter, there's a given a previous question is here. What is the previous question here? Since the sexual act is the very intimate connection of bodies, it is not surprising that many diseases can be sexually transmitted. These diseases are called as sexually transmitted diseases. During the intercourse or during the coitus, there is a transfer of many body fluids. Because of the body fluids exchange, there can also be exchange of diseases. These include bacterial infection such as gonorrhea and syphilis. Remember, under bacterial, your NCERT is telling you under bacterial there is gonorrhea as well as syphilis. There is something called as gonorrhea and syphilis. Gonorrhea and syphilis. And viral. Under viral, it is telling you warts, viral warts, and HIV. That is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. HIV/AIDS. HIV/AIDS. Under bacteria, it is telling you. Under bacteria, it is telling you gonorrhea and syphilis. Under viral, it is telling you warts and HIV/AIDS. Clear? That is also a previous year question for all of you. I want everyone to focus here also because of these. This can be asked a question. And this paragraph can be easily been, left out by so many students who missed out marks here. So bacterial example is gonorrhea and syphilis. Viral example is warts and HIV. Now some of you are asking me a weekly schedule in PDF. Today, I have decided this entire PDF will be given to the Telegram channel. Along with that, today on the channel community post, you can see a weekly schedule. Okay? Today only I'll put up a weekly schedule. You will know every single day what time, which class is happening. In fact, today 5 p.m. Today 5 p.m. Let me write it down. Today 5 p.m. Today 5 p.m. you have a maths class. And today 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. there is a chemistry class. Today 5 p.m. maths. Today 6 or 7 p.m. there is a chemistry class. Clear? Amazing all of you are. That is the end of the chapter. Let me know in the comment section how was the class. Because if you comment, it motivates us also. And if you have any feedback to give it to us, we will take the feedback. Obviously, that's the important one. And also students, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel as much as possible. Share the session because next 20 days, less than 20 days is very crucial for you. And we are here to make it extremely productive for you. Because today you'll be getting 2 videos. Today you'll be getting 3 videos from my side. Apart from today's class, you will be getting 3 different videos today. First video is Letter to the God. First one is Letter to the God. I'll be teaching you. Second video is Dust and Snow. Dust, that poem I'll be giving you. The third video which I'll be giving from my side today only. Heart in 10 minutes. In today's video, today only you'll be getting a video called as Heart in 10 minutes today. How many of you sir? Heart, human heart in 10 minutes. In just 10 minutes, you will know the entire structure of heart and you will never have to remember heart again. That is my promise from my side. So until then, I'll see you in the next class. Take care all of you. Bye-bye.